Sorry, we're running a little bit late, but thank you for waiting patiently. I'm John Sheeman, Interim Chair of the Department of Social Sciences and History here at the Florham campus, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this evening's UN Pathways Lecture, the second of the semester, second and final of the semester, organized by the Office of Global Learning and the Ambassadors Club at the UN, and in coordination with the Provost's office here at the campus of Florham. So I'd like to thank Elise Salem and Ken Green for their sponsorship of the event. This, as I said, is the last UN Pathways Lecture of the semester, building on a very successful human rights symposium we had earlier in the semester, as well as another UN Pathways dinner. We shall have more of them next semester, so I urge you to keep your eye out for those and attend in the spring. Tonight we have the good fortune of having the visit from the ambassador to the UN from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'd like to say that I am personally very pleased because as an undergraduate I was able to see the beauty of Sarajevo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then watch, as many of us did, with horror from afar as Bosnia and Herzegovina Yugoslavia descended into civil war. And so I'm grateful that tonight I and the undergraduates here at FDU have an opportunity to not see ethnic cleansing on the television set, but instead to hear about attempts to build a peaceful and multi-ethnic Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'd now like to say a few words about our good friend Ambassador Kamal from the UN Ambassadors Club. And as somebody who prefers not to read from a text, it's always annoying to have to introduce Ambassador Kamal, since the laundry list of his accomplishments make it impossible or almost impossible to avoid reading. He asked me to be briefer, so I'll be a little bit briefer, but he's a professional diplomat in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan for over 40 years, holding diplomatic postings around the world, including Vice President of the General Assembly at the UN. He's a senior fellow at the United Nations Institute of Training and Research and is president of the Ambassadors Club at the UN. In this capacity, he works with us on these lectures. And he's also the author of several publications on disarmament and multilateralism, global economic issues, and so forth. And he's an honorary visiting professor at 6 universities, among which is our very own Fairleigh Dickinson University. So I hope you'll join me in welcoming Ambassador Kamal.
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Provost, distinguished ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. It's a distinct honor for me to present Ambassador Prica to this distinguished audience. Ambassador Prica is the permanent representative of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and you've all read his impressive biodata in the papers which all of you have picked up. Advisor to the President, advisor to the Prime Minister, second time around diplomat at the United Nations in New York, representing a country which has been through the toils and travails of an extremely difficult birth. Here is a country located in a region which gave the word Balkanization to the English language. For those who have studied history, our basic memory about the region is that it instigated the start of World War I. And then we went through that war, and we went through World War II and all the difficulties and that horrible blot on history, which is the racialist philosophy of World War II. And we thought at the end, in 1945, that we were out of trouble and that a brave new world was going to open out for all of us. And then lo and behold, suddenly, all that we thought we had wiped off the map in destroying Nazism reared up its head again, this time in the incarnation of horrible-sounding words, ethnic cleansing. And so none of us could understand what had gone wrong in this region of the world, which was the Balkans. After all, this was Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a country which had been held together by an extraordinary statesman, Tito, who had an enviable reputation for having stood up firmly against the expansion of Nazism and Germany in the region, and then at the end of the war stood up equally fiercely in front of the Soviet Union despite a commonality of ideology. And so Tito, because of the personality of the man, perhaps of its vision, perhaps of its leadership, was able to hold Yugoslavia together. Not just hold it together, but to make it into one of the greatest countries in the world. We are talking of a Yugoslavia which supplied some of the finest ambassadors and diplomats in the United Nations, of the country which led to the formation of the non-aligned movement, and therefore one of the leaders of the world. And then suddenly, in front of us, this whole country started to erode into sand. Different ethnic regions, different ethnicities, all wanting independence. First of all, Slovenia takes its path, becomes an independent country. Then Croatia takes its path and becomes an independent country. And when Bosnia says, well, we too, then ethnic cleansing starts, and we see some of the horrors of war and of racist philosophies and of one of the saddest chapters in peacekeeping in the United Nations, which is the fall of Srebrenica. And so we have many questions to ask you, Ambassador Prica. Our first question is, if Mr. Tito could do it, what happened subsequently? Why did the country fall apart? Why was it not able to produce statesmanship of the type which held it together and led it to a position of leadership in the world? Then you are Bosnia-Herzegovina. You are surrounded by an area which has all sought independence. Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Macedonia, Serbia. And somehow you are holding together, but you are holding together tentatively, because there are three distinct ethnic people in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Are you a union? Are you a federation? Or are you a confederation? Are you tentative or are you for real? What are you? How do you see yourself 20 years from now? Will you still be Bosnia-Herzegovina, or will you have split up into even smaller constituent, quote-unquote, Balkanized elements? And question 3, not relating to you at all, but where your example is vital for our understanding. We are in the middle of a complete mess in Iraq, where you also have 3 ethnicities, and where a country was held together through history for several hundred years, and suddenly there is talk of civil war, and people, responsible people, are openly talking of cutting it up into 3 separate parts. Is there something that we can learn from Bosnia which is relevant to Iraq? And if you were the governor of Iraq, or better still, if you were God, how would you prevent a breakup of Yugoslavia in Iraq? What do you think is the future of Iraq? What can we learn from you today that is relevant to us in the type of situations in which we find ourselves? So I was hoping to welcome you with happiness, but I'm only welcoming you